Risk factors refer to any kind of challenges, adversities, or situations that increase the likelihood that a child will be harmed or experience some kind of problems. And risk factors include many different kinds of adversities. They include common adversities like, having violence in the neighborhood, to much more rare kinds of risk factors like experiencing a tsunami in your neighborhood. So it covers any kind of adverse childhood experiences. A promotive factor is something that is good for children and good for development under all kinds of situations. These are the kinds of assets and resources that help healthy development for everybody. And often promotive factors are the same across the world. And there are cultural differences, but for example, good parenting and good schools and having a human brain that's working well, those are all really important for human development. So people do better, they grow up more healthy if they have the kinds of families that are supportive and opportunities to learn at school and that sort of thing. Protective factors have a special role to play. These are resources or advantages that are particularly important in adversity. And what's interesting about protective factors is that some of them are also promotive. For example, having good parents that love you and support you is important under all kinds of situations. But parents are special because they can really act and react to threats and do even more for their children. So parents can take special extra efforts and actions under adversity to try to help their kids. Similarly, you can have a school that is helping children to learn, but when something terrible happens, like there's a threat to the school, or a war breaks out in the country of the school, schools can, do extra things to provide resources for children and that sort of thing. And then there are also some protective factors that are particularly good only when there's a threatening situation. So I think of those as, for example, emergency responders. You can have a fire department and you can have people who are there trained to help in emergencies, to deal with fires or floods or provide emergency care. And they really play the most important role only when there's a real threat happening right now. So all of these factors, the threats, the resources, and the special resources that really work under adversity all play a role in how any person or family or community will do in the case of an emergency. Risk and protective factors really vary both across situation and also across culture. To start with situation, the kind of threats and resources that are around in ordinary life under kind of typical situations around the world are pretty fundamental to human development. So, they include the everyday stressors that children face. Life has many ups and downs, even life in very advantaged situations. But when you talk about adversity and protective factors in very serious, threatening situations, such as children in a war zone, children caught up in a really dangerous situation, the kinds of threats that children experience in war zones are often much more frequent, intense, and life-threatening. And we know from a lot of research that when lives are threatened and the lives of the parents are threatened, that poses a really different situation for children. And the kind of resources that need to be mobilized when you have severe life-threatening violence that's ongoing and repeated are really quite different. And the burden on the community, the family, and the children is different. One of the most dangerous aspects of armed conflict is that it threatens the central protective factors for human development. So when parents are injured or separated from their children, children lose the most important protective factor in their lives. And the other problem is that a lot of the normal resources that are in communities just every day that help people adapt and live a healthy life are often damaged or destroyed by conflict, so that everything is harder to come by. The basic survival needs of food and water and health care are in danger, and so forth. So it's really quite a different situation, and it's makes a difference how long the threats go on. If you have ongoing violence, that can kind of really begin to overwhelm all the resources anybody, any family, any community can put together to help address the issues.